Hey, guys. So, can we talk about some of the issues, like real issues that we can have in our parenting after being raised in a toxic family? I know that when my children started hitting about middle school age, I started having all kinds of flashbacks. That's when most of my sexual abuse trauma was going on. And it was very difficult for me to look at my children and think that they were the same age as I was when it was happening. And as they got older, as most of you know, I have 8 children altogether. But when my two oldest were in school and stuff, they were boys. So it wasn't as, I can't say it wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't as bad as when my daughter started getting the age that I was at those ages. So when my daughter got into high school and started having those normal teenage things of, well, I don't like this person today because they said this one thing, and I don't like this person this day because they said this, and she's not my friend anymore, I couldn't relate. Because by the time I was in high school, I was raising 5 children and had parents that weren't home for weeks at a time while I was still going to school and all of that stuff. It was very hard for me to be able to relate to my children. And that's what started me in therapy. So at first, I would get upset thinking that my children are just not up to par and are spoiled rotten and not going to make it in the world, because if they weren't doing as much as I was at that age, it just wasn't enough. Through my therapy, I realized that I had offered my children, or I do since I started therapy and started realizing what had happened, how serious it was, and how it wasn't right. I realized how differently my parenting is from what I was raised in. My children have always had the safety and security to be able to come to me and discuss things when they have issues, which I was never able to do. They're able to come to me and tell me if something that I'm doing makes them upset in any way, and I'm not going to scream at them that they're wrong. I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I know that I have overcorrected in many ways. The famous saying of my oldest is, well, we don't do the dishes after we're done cooking. We just put them in the sink and it just gets done magically overnight. I have overcorrected in many things. So when I see my almost 23-year-old, and he's out living his best life, he has a job, he has a fancy car, he's doing well for himself, but the one part of me that is from my previous life, we'll call it, says, well, he should have a home, and he should have this, and he should have all these responsibilities. Well, he wasn't me. He's not me. He wasn't a 19-year-old that had to get married and buy a home and do all of the adult things because they had 5 siblings that needed a place to stay. Thankfully, my children are able to have this selfish period in their lives, that they don't have a significant other, they don't have children, they don't have all that stuff, and they're able to go out and find out who they are, what they want to do with their lives. And the other part of the parenting that kind of gets to me some days is being jealous. As proud as I am of what I'm able to do and secure and give to my children, it still gives me moments where I sit back and wonder, what would I have been if I was given these things? How different would my life be if I was given just the simple little things? No, I don't have a lot of money, but my children are offered all the things that I never was before. Since I started my therapy and realizing that some of the things that I used to do and the way that I would handle things, my coping, I have gone through and apologized to every single one of my children and told them that I'm making active steps in order to change it, and I have proven that. My relationship with my children is a lot better now, although I do still have times that I cannot relate to what they're saying. And it makes me feel bad. But comparing the life that I grew up with and the life that my children are growing up with, because I was completely determined to do the exact opposite, I should expect the opposite from my children. I do not want them to have to, as soon as they get out of school, you better get a job, you better get a house, you better do all these adult things that we're expecting out of, 18 and 19-year-olds, or they're failing. So I just wanted to hopefully not only soothe my own parental guilt in the things that I've done in the past and the things that I'm still learning and retraining my brain as to what people should and should not be doing. I'm hoping that it'll give you a little bit of that grace as well. The most important thing that we can do as parents, no matter what our background was, no matter the mistakes that we've had, is to be open, honest, and willing to communicate and listen to our children. I can't tell you how huge it is, and I'm very proud of my children for having the ability to make their own decisions. One of the biggest things that I've been fighting with for the last year or so is figuring out who I am underneath who my parents molded me into being. And my children never have to go through that. And if you're making those changes, your children will hopefully never have to go through that either. And that is a big deal. Much love, guys.